Christian Pulisic is the most talented American player ever, with him being the face of the United States when it comes to football. He's already accomplished a lot in the sport despite only being 24 years old, like breaking through to the first team of Borussia Dortmund at a young age, playing a pivotal role in Chelsea winning the Champions League, and of course, scoring the crucial goal to send the USA to the knockout round of the 2022 World Cup. However, before jumping to the present, we have to go back to Pulisic's youth because that's where his journey of becoming America's most popular footballer started. Pulisic was born in Hershey, Pennsylvania, where he spent a majority of his childhood despite moving a decent amount as a kid. Christian was born to parents Kelly and Mark Pulisic, and both parents had a background in football or soccer. As you can already see, football was in Christian Pulisic's DNA. However, Christian didn't dream of going pro at a young age until he moved to England. That's right, when Christian Pulisic was still 6 years old, he and the family moved to England after his mother, Kelly Pulisic, received a scholarship to work abroad on a teaching exchange. Now, Christian lived in a small town called Tackley in England, and that's where he began to play for the youth team called Brackley Town. Now, Christian only stayed in England for a year, but this stay in the UK blossomed his love for the sport. In fact, he started to play football every day at school, and even after school, he used to go to the playground and kick the ball around with some friends. Like I previously said, Christian Pulisic's stay in England wasn't long, and he moved back to the US after a year. However, not to Hershey, but instead to Michigan, and that's where he played with the Michigan Rush for a couple of years. That also didn't last long though, because after 2 years, the Pulisic family moved back to Hershey, Pennsylvania, and that's when Pulisic started playing for a local US soccer development academy called PA Classics. This is where Pulisic got most of his football development done. He was also a very bright performer for the PA Classics that in fact, he always played 2 years up from his age group. He was that good. His talent eventually caught the eye of the U teams of the US men's national team, and that's when in 2013, he was called for the Nike Friendlies, where the US had to face Brazil in the final. Christian Pulisic had a world-class performance where he grabbed a goal and was a key piece in the US destroying Brazil 4-1 in that Nike final. Now, beating Brazil in the final must have been great for Pulisic. However, this is just the start of his professional journey. This is because at this game, there were a ton of Borussia Dortmund scouts. The thing is though, they weren't initially there for Christian Pulisic. In fact, the sporting director for Borussia Dortmund at the time, Michael Zorc, sent his scouts to watch American striker Haji Wright. Going back to Pulisic though, the Dortmund scouts fell in love with Pulisic at this game, and Zorc stated that his scouts had never seen an American at his age with that high of a soccer IQ. That's when Borussia Dortmund decided that they wanted to sign the American winger. Now, usually Americans can't sign for a European club until they turn 18. However, there is an exception. If you're a dual national with another European country, you can sign at 16 for a European club. And thanks to Christian Pulisic having a Croatian grandfather, he was allowed to get a European passport and move to Germany in the summer of 2014 with his father, Mark Pulisic. Christian started out with the Borussia Dortmund U17s, where he excelled and got 6 goals and 5 assists in just 8 games. That's when he got promoted to the Dortmund U19s, and he managed to get 4 goals and 3 assists in his first 7 league games. And then after that, he went on to the U17 World Cup, where he got a goal and an assist in 3 starts for the United States. After this, Pulisic was invited to join Dortmund's first team training camp in a winter training session in Dubai. That's when Thomas Tuchel allowed him to stay with the senior team of Borussia Dortmund, and Pulisic took his chance. Christian then became the youngest foreigner to score in the Bundesliga when he opened his account for Dortmund in a game against Hamburg on April 17th. Then 6 days later, Pulisic scored against Stuttgart and became the youngest player of any nationality to have scored twice in the Bundesliga. He was taking the German league by storm and was showing to the world that he can compete with the very best. The positive Dortmund performances for Pulisic led US manager at the time, Jurgen Klinsmann, to call him up to the senior squad for the 2016 Copa America. And in a friendly against Bolivia before the tournament started, Pulisic scored his first ever senior goal for the United States, and this probably did a lot for his confidence. However, at the Copa America, he played a minimal role for the United States, but he did play 45 minutes against Argentina in the semifinals, and he even got to take a selfie with the GOAT Lionel Messi after they were both required to take doping tests after the game, which is pretty cool. The selfie, not the doping test. Now for the 2016-17 season, Christian Pulisic really took off for Dortmund. Despite still being a teenager, he played 43 games in all competitions for Borussia Dortmund and got 5 goals and 13 assists. Some of these include amazing man of the match performances, like against Darmstadt where he got 1 goal and 2 assists in the match, against Ingolstadt where he got 1 goal and 1 assist, and he even got 1 goal and 1 assist against the top German club Bayer Leverkusen. That's not all though, because in the Champions League, the world took notice of him in the 2 group stage games against Real Madrid. He got an amazing assist to Schürrle in the first game to get 1 point for Borussia Dortmund, and then in the game at the Bernabeu, his amazing skills were put on full display, and the world realized that this Christian Pulisic kid could turn out to be the real deal. Pulisic even had great performances in the knockout rounds of the Champions League that season, with him bagging 1 goal and 1 assist against Benfica in the round 16 second leg to take Dortmund through to the quarterfinals. His international career started to take off as well, with him being a mainstay with the US men's national team. And for the World Cup qualifiers, he got 2 goals and 1 assist in a 6-0 victory over St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and this made him the youngest person to score in a World Cup qualifier for the United States and the youngest player to score a brace in American history. This World Cup qualifying campaign stretched on to the next season, and it seemed like the United States were going to make the 2018 World Cup after a 4-0 win over Panama, where Christian Pulisic scored an important goal and had 1 foot over the line for qualification for the States. However, we all know where this is going. showing. Despite Pulisic being one of the better performances in the game against Trinidad and Tobago away, scoring 1 goal, it wasn't enough, and the United States proceeded to lose 2-1. This was obviously the most humiliating loss in United States football history, and why is that? Well, because this loss meant that the United States failed to qualify for the World Cup 2018 in Russia, and of course, this left Pulisic devastated. And honestly, it felt like he was the only one that seemed affected by this humiliating loss, with him crying all over the place. Don't blame him though, because I was crying too, just in my home. What a terrible day. After this loss though, Clint Dempsey told Christian Pulisic that it was his time now to become the leader and lead the future generation of the USMNT, and it was up to him to make sure this failure never happens again, and Pulisic took that to heart. That's because after the humiliating loss to Trinidad, Pulisic wrote an article called 1,834 Days, where he talked about the experience of failing to qualify for the World Cup and how he failed to accomplish his dream to play at this tournament. More importantly, towards the end of the article, he wrote something that gave all US fans hope and how we can rely on him. He said, because yeah, okay, we're not going to the World Cup, but there's going to be a World Cup after that, and a World Cup after that, and a World Cup after that. And I hope that we're going to be able to build something here with US soccer. It's going to be about an entire country rallying around the entire sport in a way that lasts. So let's plan on it then, 2022. Get your basements ready and mark it down. We'll be there. This gave USA fans like myself a ton of hope that we will qualify for the next World Cup for sure. And it was all thanks to Christian Pulisic, who pretty much wrote to all of us saying to believe in him and trust him, and he'll be the one to take the United States far. And let me tell you, he was not wrong. He fulfilled his promises. But we'll get to that part soon. Just stick with me. Now, the 2017-18 season for Christian Pulisic was okay. He didn't really propel himself to the next level. Yes, he scored a goal against Bayern Munich in the DFL Super Cup, and yes, he had a great performance against Wolfsburg, getting a goal and an assist, but overall, it wasn't super impressive. He only managed to get 5 goals and 7 assists in 42 games. Christian was still very young, so this relatively poor season was overlooked, but still, he didn't take that next step despite being a consistent player for BVB. The 2018-19 season for Pulisic was one of both extreme positives and also a ton of negatives. He had a decent season, getting 7 goals and 6 assists in 30 games for Borussia Dortmund. However, as you can see by the games he played, he didn't play as many as his previous seasons. Why? Well, he was getting injured quite frequently this season, with him having a ton of muscular problems and even had a series of torn muscle injuries throughout the campaign. However, this didn't stop Chelsea from wanting to sign Christian Pulisic, and they did exactly that in the January transfer window. On January 2nd, 2019, Pulisic signed for the Premier League giants Chelsea for an estimated £58 million transfer fee, which made Pulisic the most expensive American player ever, and also Borussia Dortmund's second most expensive sale of all time, behind Ousmane Dembele. Christian Pulisic wanted to relish the challenge of replicating Eden Hazard's stint at Chelsea, and even described him as his idol, which is why he was so eager to join Chelsea. This makes sense because Pulisic reminds me of Eden Hazard a ton. However, for the remainder of the 18-19 season, he was on loan with Dortmund and would only leave them in the summer. His injury problems continued despite securing the bag at Chelsea, and this affected his international career, with him often missing USA games. However, he did play against England at Wembley and showed England fans watching that he was a true talent and he's ready to take over the Premier League. Additionally, he captained the United States in a friendly against Italy, making him the youngest player ever to captain the United States at the age of 20 years old. Christian Pulisic just keeps on breaking records, man. Also, despite being plagued with injuries, Christian Pulisic was fit to play for the 2019 Gold Cup and got a total of 3 goals and 3 assists, and this led him to win the Best Young Player award of that tournament. However, despite Pulisic carrying the United States, we still lost to Mexico in the final 1-0, and part of that blame has to go to Jozy Altidore for that terrible miss. Now, moving on to the 2019-20 season, Christian Pulisic is finally playing for Chelsea Football Club. However, despite a good performance against Liverpool in the UEFA Super Cup final, the first couple of months were slow for Pulisic as he didn't contribute much for his first batch of games. However, this all changed on October 26, 2019, where Chelsea played Burnley away, a team notoriously known for its good defensive abilities. In the 21st minute of the game though, Pulisic wins the ball near the middle of the pitch and starts dribbling towards the Burnley goal. With Tarkowski in front of him, he moves the ball towards his left foot and shot the ball and scored. Christian Pulisic scored his first goal for Chelsea, and just look at how much that meant for him. This isn't the end though. Pulisic had the space to dribble freely towards the Burnley goal at around the 45th minute, and that's when he shifted towards the right and shot the ball with his stronger foot and scored again. Christian Pulisic has a brace. But this is still not the end. In the 56th minute, Christian Pulisic completed a perfect hat-trick by heading the ball in the net from across. How Pulisic got that clean of a header at the height of 5'9" is remarkable, but hey, Pulisic got a hat-trick in the same game where he scored his first goal for Chelsea. He's special. He scored in the game right after too against Watford, and then in the game after that too against Crystal Palace. He even scored a goal against Valencia in the Champions League as well, which helped Chelsea progress to the round 16 of that tournament. However, at the start of 2020, Christian Pulisic had a tear in the abductor muscle and was set to miss numerous months of the Premier League campaign, and it looked like maybe it could be the end of his season. However, COVID-19 struck in March 2020 and the Premier League season was obviously paused. 3 months later, when the Premier League resumed, Christian Pulisic was back healthy again and was ready to go, and this was the start of Project Restart Pulisic. Christian Pulisic during Project Restart was an absolute beast. In the first game back in the Premier League, he bagged a goal straight off the bench against Aston Villa. Then 4 days later, he scored the iconic goal against Manchester City after winning the ball in the middle of the pitch and easily getting by Benjamin Mendy to score the goal. This goal essentially won Liverpool the Premier League title as as well, which is why it's so iconic. Pulisic then went on to get 1 goal and 3 assists in the next 5 games of Project Restart before his substitute appearance against Liverpool. All Liverpool fans, and in fact all Premier League fans, remember this appearance by Pulisic. This is because right when he got on the pitch, he got an amazing assist after getting by a couple of Liverpool defenders, and he also scored a beautiful goal to scare Liverpool that Chelsea were going to come back in that game. Now, spoiler alert, Chelsea didn't come back and lost the game, but this performance did show that Pulisic was really talented, and he also had potential of tearing up the Premier League. Also, he scored an amazing goal in the FA Cup final against Arsenal, but later got injured in the match, and then Chelsea lost to Arsenal 2-1. Safe to say though, Pulisic was carrying Chelsea during Project Restart, and honestly was probably the best player in the Premier League during this period. Then the 2020-21 season was overall underwhelming until the very end of the season for the American. Let me explain. Throughout the entire season, Christian Pulisic participated in 43 games and only scored 6 goals and got 4 assists. Out of that, he took part in 27 Premier League games and got 4 goals and 2 assists. This wasn't a good season for Christian Pulisic in the Premier League, especially after Project Restart where all of us were expecting big things from him. However, the Champions League was a different story for the American star boy. That's because Christian Pulisic was the best player for Chelsea in the Champions League semi-final against the biggest club in the world, Real Madrid. In the first leg at Madrid, Christian Pulisic scored a fantastic opening goal to give Chelsea the lead they needed going into the game. Real Madrid later equalized and the game ended in a 1-1 draw. This made the second leg all the more important, but Pulisic was benched by Tuchel and this bothered him. This is because he later revealed that he was benched against Fulham the game before because Tuchel assured him that he was starting against Real Madrid and needed to be fresh for the game. However, on game day, Tuchel told Christian that he decided to start Havertz, and this left Pulisic dumbfounded. Nevertheless, Pulisic came into the game as a substitute and got an amazing assist to Mason Mount to seal off the game against Madrid. Christian Pulisic got 2 goal contributions out of the 3 goals Chelsea put past Real Madrid, making him the most important player in this tie. Then in the final against Manchester City, Chelsea won the game 1-0 and won the Champions League, and a huge reason for that was because of Pulisic's performances against Real Madrid. This streak of confidence from just winning the Champions League played a huge role in coming back to the United States to represent the US team in the CONCACAF Nations League. In the semi-final against Honduras, the US won 1-0 thanks to a goal by Pulisic's teammate Jordan Pifak Sibachu. This goal had Pulisic and the rest of the American players having to face Mexico in the Nations League final, a revenge game for Pulisic since Mexico defeated the US in the 2019 Gold Cup final. This game was extremely back and forth, with the US conceding early to then Gio Reyna tying the game, then with Linus scoring late, and then McKennie scoring right after that. This game had to go to extra time. That's when in extra time, Christian Pulisic was fouled in the opposing box and was awarded a penalty. Of course, Christian Pulisic has balls of steel, so we hit that penalty top bins and got a pass to Ochoa to give the US the lead in the game 3-2. His celebration is iconic as well, with him shushing the Mexican crowd. Mexico could have gone their way back into the game, but Ethan Horvath saved Guardado's penalty towards the end to give the US their first competitive win over Mexico in a very long time. Basically, in a span of 2 weeks, Christian Pulisic won his first trophy for Chelsea, the Champions League, and won his first trophy for his country, the Nations League. Not a bad ending for a relatively poor season. The 2021-22 season was better for Christian Pulisic compared to the season prior. He got a grand total of 8 goals and 5 assists in 38 games. Not excellent, but it's definitely an improvement from the season before. However, it was a season of silverware. That's because in the UEFA Super Cup, Chelsea beat Villarreal on penalties 7-6, with Christian Pulisic playing a part and scoring a penalty in the shootout. Additionally, he played a role in the FIFA Club World Cup final where Chelsea beat out Palmeiras 2-1 in extra time, and this means Pulisic won the Club World Cup as well. Pulisic also had iconic moments for Chelsea this season. His goal in the season opener against Crystal Palace was solid, but his tiger tattoo celebration made it into FIFA, the video game. He also scored an extremely impressive goal against Liverpool, which a lot of football fans still remember today. And he also scored crucial goals in the round 16 games against Lille. And the second leg goal had to do the gritty as a celebration. And everybody remembers this gritty, but only because of how terrible it was. Pulisic has to work on his dancing for real. However, in this season, Christian Pulisic continued to suffer from injuries, and this continues to play into the stigma that he is injury prone. His injury problems also prevented him from taking a major part in World Cup qualifying for the US until the very end of the qualifying campaign. In the game against Panama, where the United States won 5-1 and pretty much guaranteed qualification to the 2022 World Cup, Christian Pulisic bagged a hat-trick, his first ever with his country. This hat-trick essentially completed the promise that Christian Pulisic made all those years back, saying that the US will make it to the World Cup. And oh boy, they did. Christian Pulisic is a man of his word. Now the 2022-23 season so far for Pulisic at Chelsea isn't too good. In 21 games he's played so far, he's only scored once and gotten 2 assists. He was starting to get back into form for Chelsea and started playing a good role for the team, but he got a knee injury in the game against Manchester City and is out for a decent amount of time. However, before that, Christian Pulisic enjoyed an extremely successful World Cup for himself. In the opening game against Wales, Christian Pulisic got an amazing assist to Timothy Weah for the first goal of the match. And although the game ended up as a draw, this match was really impressive and Pulisic shined. In the game against England, Pulisic did well again, but the game ended in a 0-0 draw. Then in the match against Iran, in a must-win game to go to the round 16, Christian Pulisic had his moment. In the 38th minute, Des headed the ball across the box to Pulisic where he scored right in front of the goal. However, he did have to sacrifice his future kids and his balls for the goal. But that sacrifice was worth it because the United States held on to win that game 1-0 and qualify for the round of 16. Pulisic's reaction to the US winning was great too, with him posting on Snapchat this picture congratulating the boys. You can see how much Christian Pulisic cares about the US soccer program and the country in general. You love to see that patriotism from him. Anyways, Christian Pulisic was actually fit enough to play against the Netherlands, and despite getting knocked out 3-1, Pulisic got an assist in the USA's only goal of the game. This means that in the World Cup, Christian Pulisic was involved in every single goal we scored at this tournament. Yeah, Christian Pulisic might actually be the LeBron James of soccer, and in all honesty, he's actually the most important player that the USA has right now. Overall, Christian Pulisic has helped millions of Americans connect with the beautiful game, and has given us American football fans someone to relate to in the international scene. Although there are now a ton of American ballers right now in Europe, Christian Pulisic was the trailblazer and pretty much started this golden generation of the USMNT. And although his time at Chelsea is coming to an end, probably, he's still young and has plenty of time to fulfill his potential of becoming the first world-class American footballer. And I still truly believe that this will happen. Thank you, Christian Pulisic, for single-handedly increasing my love for the US men's national team and also football in general. I'll always be rooting for you. This video took a long time to make, so I would appreciate it if you guys can subscribe to the channel. And if you want to watch another video like this, I've attached a video somewhere on the screen. Just click it and watch it. Thank you.